Yeah, there has been so many different fantasy medias out there that have said, "Do not touch the living weapon. Nothing good will come of it." We already have in the world of Runeterra, "Do not touch the weapon. Nothing good will come of it." And yet the guy still touches it, and the first people that he kills are his allies. So therefore, nothing nothing good came of it. All right.
Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 96. I'm your host, Ryan, here with your other host, Hatch.
And if you're old enough to remember the days of FM radio, welcome to 96.1 Casual Rock.
Only thing we play here, though, is housekeeping up top. That's the first track that's going to run on loop every hour.
That's right, on repeat, baby.
So you can listen to us everywhere. Email us at podcastcore@gmail.com. Visit us at podcastcore.com for all of our info. Pick the platform you like. We just redesigned that page as well. And then, follow that one or all the platforms because that helps us. If you go over to YouTube as well and follow us there, we appreciate that for discoverability. And then leave a like or comment. But the easiest way how you guys have gotten us this far is word of mouth. Please tell a friend to instill fear in your enemies by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast. I may have said that one before. I'm not sure. It's been a lot of episodes.
I mean, we're pretty creative, but we're still human, We might repeat it. It's been enough time to where it's new again. So, and we have established before on our show, if we say it, it's canon. So that's the first time you've said it, and now it's canon. You see what I did?
Well, you're human. I'm Darkin.
Oh, shut up.
So let's get into it. So we're now continuing from our last episode, which is our Kayn episode. If you saw that one or listened to that one, depending on where you're listening to it from, like we mentioned, Kayn's story, both his stories and his bio, not very expansive, pretty straightforward, but we did get to expand on the previous episode using the cards. This one, we want to talk about one of his stories, which is his experience in getting the blade that we know as Rost. So for this episode, we're doing the story, The Blade of Millennia, which is the topic.
Yeah, and we're very excited to dive into this because it's not that Kayn, if you've listened to our previous episode, we like to harp on the orphan origin story a lot.
Yeah.
And despite us harping on that, it's not that Kayn is a bad character. It's just that the origin is lackluster, all right?
Yeah.
But when you get to see more of the character in a living and breathing world, you get to enjoy the character more. And this is our chance to really highlight that, Kayn is kind of scary, dude.
You think? I play League of Legends. Trust me, I understand.
God.
This, like we say, all good stories start in the middle. It's for you Star Wars fans. But this one actually starts at the end. So we have a scene of Kayn standing confidently in the shadow of Noxtora, surrounded by dead soldiers, and he's relishing in the fear, and he kind of considers fear at this point his true weapon. We talk about how he's the master of all weapons as he trained under Zed, but sometimes he chooses to use his bare hands. But to him, because he's that broken of a person, fear is the true weapon that he wields. And for the first time in years, he's now set foot in his birthplace. He's in Noxus. He's in search of this weapon, this living weapon, that we know now as Rost. If you've listened to our last episode, definitely check that one out first. Don't listen to the story episodes first. That's kind of a key rule. But in front of him stands Nakuri, who is his brother from the Order of Shadows, and he appears before him not as an ally, but as a threat.
We've kind of covered some stories involving siblings and League of Legends champions before. And we're going to have a happy ending, right? It's going to be a happy ending, right? Right?
No, Hedge, it's going to be a flashback. Because we like those. We love those.
Even better. Even flashbacks.
So we hit the freeze frame. You're probably wondering how I got here. And we go back to essentially Zed calling on Kayn to inform him of a recent Noxus discovery. I know, no surprises. We know what it is. They unearthed an ancient scythe. It's a living weapon with darkened origins. That's no good. And it consumes everyone who touches it. So it's been wrapped in some chainmail with a sackcloth, and it's secured by a guarded caravan that is headed towards the Immortal Bastion. This is where we pause and we tell you to go back and listen to some of our Noxus episodes so you understand why the Immortal Bastion is the best place to put this fucking thing.
You know what? If you really want something to not get out, the Immortal Bastion is the place to go. Now, an interesting thing that we get here as far as in this story, because we've talked a lot before as far as how Ionia is a very spiritual land, and it is a land that is not, they're not foreign to the concept of magic, and they're not foreign to the use of magic. And we see that with, even within this story of the bios of Kayn and Zed, because they use shadow magic to perform their assassinations. But this story gives us a detail that even Ionian magic is not strong enough to destroy the darkened weapons. So we get this knowledge now that it's like part of the reason that these weapons are still out and about in the world is that there are very few things in the existence of Runeterra that can destroy them, which kind of also plays into our favorite comparison of this story, which is the Sith relationship of apprentice and master. It kind of plays into why Zed is like, yeah, Kayn, go get that scythe. Yeah, I don't care how strong you are, you can't destroy it, and I know what living weapons do. So yeah, you go get that scythe. You go get it. This is your test. This is your test. If you come back alive, then you are strong. And I was right to take you on as apprentice. And if you die, who cares?
There's more where you came from.
There's always orphans. Someone's going to clip that, and I'm getting banned yet again.
So now, fighting behind enemy lines alone would be a daunting task for anybody, but this is kind of what the Order of Shadow does. They're known to be, great scouts, great assassins for that reason. And Kayn takes pleasure in that, that very specific trait. So Kayn begins setting his traps up. He's now there. And this is before sunset, because as you know, wink, wink, nod, nod, he uses shadows to his advantage for fighting mainly. And then he begins to do the devil's work. Slinking through the shadows and dispatching the caravan guards with his bare hands, because, like we said, that's one of his favorite weapons as well.
The devil's work. You do that a little too well. It frustrates me.
So Kayn takes to terrorizing these guards, and until one man he allows to run away. He kind of does the classic Joker type thing of, you've seen my destruction, now go tell a friend about the craziness that's coming their way. And this person ends up being struck down by Nakuri, who kind of plays more by the book. When I say by the book, I mean by Zed's book of being an assassin. So he's just trying to get the kills, get the job done, and get back to his master. And Kayn is immediately furious because he feels like not only should Nakuri not be here, he's impeding on what I find fun, right? The sickness that I take pleasure in. And he's trying to steal my thunder. And he tells him, you need to leave, or I can deal with you later if you survive this encounter.
And this also plays in because it's not just that he feels that Nakuri's out to steal his thunder, but remember for Kayn, instead of only getting the pleasure of the killing out of his missions, his goal is also to get to a point where he can take over from Zed. And so it's not just that it's like, oh, you're going to take my glory here. There's also this idea of what if Nakuri is a rival instead of just someone who's here to perform a mission. If he's my rival, I gotta kill him too. Because again, these are not good people. Like achieve their goals by killing. All right. So
Yeah.
Kane's goal is to get Zed out of the picture so he can be in charge of the shadow, the Order of Shadows. And if Nakuri is looking at the same goal, that means Nakuri's got to go too. And all of this is probably going through Kane's head before we even get to see the living weapon. So there's no way that the living weapon can make that worse, right?
No, no way. I mean, it goes back to Annie's origins, right? You have two sorcerers hooking up in front of fire. Nothing's going to go wrong, right?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, there's always fire around this kid, but it can't be anything bad.
So, due to this distraction of these two teammates essentially arguing on the pitch, some more approaching guards notice them and they're like, hey, stop, you. And Nakuria immediately hops into action. Remember, he plays by the book. He starts taking out guards. Once again, this pisses off Kayn because he likes to play around with his food a bit and do it in style, since he enjoys taking his time and pleasure in the killing of these soldiers. So then one of the Noxus soldiers gets desperate. Obviously, they're fearful for their lives. He grabs the scythe, which, listen, know what the scythe does. That's why they're here. They have that intel of what happens when you grab the scythe. It immediately starts corrupting him.
Yeah, there has been so many different fantasy medias out there that have said do not touch the living weapon. Nothing good will come of it. We already have in the world of Runeterra, do not touch the weapon, nothing good will come of it. And yet the guy still touches it. And the first people that he kills are his allies. So therefore, nothing good came of it. All right. And really, I think one of the biggest things to take away from this, and this is totally an ad from Riot. The first thing to take away from this is don't argue with your teammates. All right, nothing good will come of it. You got to be the one that's bringing in don't bring in the BM, bring in the chill vibes.
Chill vibes only.
If you bring in the BM, you're gonna get your whole team killed.
Exactly. So, I mean, for you Forgotten Realms folks, Catti-brie and Kazatea. I'll just leave that there, and you do with that what you will. It takes a long time to control a corrupted weapon. But anyways, so Kayn does one of his moves we know from the game, and this isn't mentioned in any of the other stuff we've talked to this far, but he leaps into the form of the guard that's being corrupted. And while inside of him, he's able to see through his eyes, but he's currently being corrupted. So he's seeing through the eyes of Rost, and he likes what he sees. There's destruction, there's flames, there's, all the dramatic stuff. And then Kayn, because this guy ends up falling to the ground dead, kind of in like a smoldering, charred mess, he leaves his body and the scythe is now sitting at his feet. So he begins reaching for it, and Nakuri, who just kind of dispatches the last guard, tells him to stop because Nakuri wants the glory, right? It's kind of what he expected. But Nakuri also knows who Kayn is. They train together. And he's like, if he touches that fucking scythe, it's going to be a problem. And guess what happens? Nakuri reverses his grip. We're now back to the original scene that was set up. He switches his grip and he's ready to strike. And then the sound from the weapon echoes in the air and it says, "Who will prove worthy?" And originally, Kayn thinks it's inside of his head because of the experience of, seeing through his eyes, whatever. But Nakuri's eyes are wide because he didn't expect it to communicate. That's bad. And in flourish in fashion, Kayn uses some shadow magic, throws it in the air, does a twirl, Cirque du Soleil style, grabs it, levels it at his throat. And then the weapon says, "Do what you must." Yeah. And that's where we leave off.
And I do want to point out that there's as far as some positives here. Okay, so the getting
some
to
positives.
look quote unquote positives. So when we get to actually see like Kayn use like his shadow abilities to go inside
Yeah.
of the Noxian warrior, we get to see what is supposed to happen when someone grabs this scythe, right? Like the reason that this scythe and why all Darkin weapons are a bad deal. We get to see what is supposed to happen, which is that he doesn't get to see anything of the guard. He doesn't see anything of that guy was dead. From the moment he grabbed it, he was dead. So when he jumped in there, he sees through Rust's eyes. All right. That's what's supposed to happen is you take it and the weapon takes over. And the fact that Kayn has not been taken over really does kind of highlight just how strong and powerful Kayn is before grabbing the scythe. All right. Like this is one of the reasons that he is able to compete with Zed and be recognized by Zed as someone worthy of being the star pupil, to be the apprentice to the Sith Master. All right. Like so that's what's supposed to happen, but it doesn't happen to Kayn. And so like I do find it funny that like the story is trying to like it starts with and ends setting up this duel between Kayn and his quote unquote brother, Nakuri. It's like, yeah, like it's setting up this dramatic thing, but it even is highlighting that it's like there, you know what's gonna happen. All right. Like, so
It's going to be
all
big.
League of Legends fans, it's like we have had plenty of Kayn jump over a wall and absolutely ruin our lives. We know who wins that fight. But someone who doesn't follow League of Legends and has no idea who Kayn is, they would know at this point of like, oh, the weapon didn't eat him. Oh no. Nakuri, run. Nakuri, run.
Nakuri, get the fuck out of the building. The call's coming from inside the house.
The call coming from inside the house. And then like echoing over the like every phone line, just like every phone in the house just starts ringing, and then like all you hear is do the devil's work.
Or another one is the senator's like, do it.
Do it.
Oh, so many great references, but that's where we leave off. Spoilers, if you listen to our last episode, he does go back with the weapon to Iona, which means he survives, which, as he promised Nakuri at the beginning, Nakuri would not. So Nakuri is dead. If you can plot the points, he is no longer with us.
Yeah, of course Nakuri is dead, because once I draw my sword, it must taste blood.
It must feed. But yeah, this is where we leave off with Kayn for now. As we mentioned in the last episode, Legends of Runeterra released a lot of like cultist cards and weapon cards with tons of text, similar to how Kayn's card had a lot of text. So we'll be able to flesh that stuff out more in the future, and he has more stories as well as featured in some comics. So listen, if you like Kayn, as Hetch mentioned, if you didn't play the game, this is your first introduction to him, there's more to come as far as his story and his edginess. It never ends.
And it never ends. And like you just mentioned, you know, Runeterra is opening a lot more content as far as the Darkin, and that if you're enjoying the idea of like living weapons, yeah, the living weapons are the Darkin. There are more of them. So yeah, if you want to listen to mortal souls being absolutely corrupted by magical weapons and fighting for their ever-loving lives, yeah, stay tuned. We'll be back with that. We'll talk about tortured souls.
So with that, thanks for listening, as always. And we'll be back soon with the next episode.
Yeah, take care, everybody.